Catherine Palin, and I'm so glad that you have joined us for the first program in a new series sponsored by Elder Care Ministries of the American Baptist Churches of Rhode Island. I would ask that if you've got questions, I'm sure you're going to have some questions, if you'll hold them till the end, and we'll have a time of question and answers. Well, now it is my great pleasure to introduce the first artist we are featuring as part of our Art and Aging series. Lincoln Smith is an accomplished photographer who has developed his art over the course of his life. He's a longtime member of Lakewood Baptist Church in Warwick. He's also been a member of the Photographic Society of Rhode Island for more than 30 years. And if you've been in Rhode Island for any length of time, you may well have seen Link's photographs in a variety of places. So Lincoln, my friend, welcome. And I'm going to have you unmute yourself. And I thought we'd begin with a few questions to help people get to know you a bit. So Link, you want to unmute? There we go. All right. So how and when did you get started with photography?
It probably started when I went to Vietnam in 1968. And at that time, all I had was a Kodak Instamatic camera, if anybody's old enough to remember that, which was just a cartridge that you put into it. And then in 1969, while I was still in Vietnam, I took a week R&R and I went to Tokyo, Japan. And over there, they have big naval PXs where you can buy all kinds of stuff if you're in the military. And I bought my first single lens reflex camera, which was a Yashica camera. And I have a little story to tell about that, because on that camera, if you look through the viewfinder, you can see the picture, even if you have the lens cap on. So I was out at a restaurant in Japan and taking some pictures of some nice girls that had waited on us and everything else, and they kept pointing at me, and all of a sudden I realized they had had enough pictures taken of them that I had left the lens cap on, so they were letting me know that so I could take the picture. So that was nice. And that camera, I used that for a long time. And after that, later on, I bought a Pentax camera that I bought at Save Right, for anybody that might know that store that was around Rhode Island for a long time. And then, and from there, I went to digital cameras. But I've been doing it since then. I didn't really seriously get into photography till I joined the Camera Club in 1983. And that time it was called the Camera Club of Providence. And now I'm a past president of that club, and now it's the Photographic Society of Rhode Island. And they meet at our church, but we haven't met in over a year now because of COVID. We do all Zoom meetings, but normally it would be at our church. And I got into the darkroom for a while. I developed my own black and white pictures. Catherine and I talked about that the other day. That was very interesting. I've been involved with a lot of photojournalism photography because my dad was chaplain of the Warwick Fire Department for 25 years. And I went to a lot of fires and accidents. And so I did a lot of photojournalism pictures. And once in a while, I would take them down to the Journal and they would develop the black and white film down there for me. And I even had a picture on the front page of the Journal at one time. And I've had and that about sums it up, is how I got started in it.
Good. Well, since you mentioned the Providence Journal, where else might folks have seen your photographs?
The Warwick Beacon, Cranston Herald. I had a picture in the 2020 Warwick calendar that goes out to all the residents in the city. I also had, I've had pictures in Firehouse Magazine, Fire Engineering Magazine. But where people around here would have seen it would have been the papers. And also I have quite a few pictures now and then on Channel 10 weather at night, 11 o'clock at night. In fact, one I took last night at Oakland Beach was on MeTV at 10 o'clock last night, and then it was on 11 o'clock on Channel 10 again. So that's where they would have probably seen them. Or on Facebook. If people on Facebook, I'm always posting pictures on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to be a friend with Link on Facebook because you get the benefit, A, of being his friend, but also of getting to see his amazing photographs. Well, Link, as you think about photography, how has it impacted or enhanced your life?
I would say the biggest impact is that at my age of 75, it gets me out of the house. And sometimes my wife is very appreciative of that, not to have me around 24/7. But and it gets me out walking. It gets me moving around. And a lot of the times I'll take a walk at Rocky Point. They have a very nice walking path there. And there's so many things to see, so many things to photograph. The new fishing pier, a great thing to photograph. And then I love walking along the shores of all the shores that we have along in Rhode Island. And a lot of times I'm at Connecticut Point or Oakland Beach because I live in Warwick, and I don't have to go very far. So if it doesn't turn out very well, it's not a big thing.
Great. Great. Well, let's give folks a chance to see some of your photographs. So let me share my screen. All right. And Link's going to talk a little bit about the photographs as we show them.
Yeah, this was taken in my backyard, so you don't have to go very far if you want to start to do some photographing. You don't have to go very far to take a nice picture. Like I say, this was just taken in my backyard. We have flowers in front of our church, beautiful, I can't think of the name of them right now, but big flowers that I've taken pictures right in front of my church. So you just have to look around. There's so many things that people just walk by, or they're so busy in their life, they don't notice the beauty all around them. Next slide. Another picture, getting in really close. This is something you would probably walk right by. Instead of just taking a picture of the full flower, I got in real close with a macro lens to get the beauty that's inside flowers, and it's all part of God's creation. And that was,
Oops.
That's okay. That was taken down in North Kingston, just out of the Whitford Center.
Okay. You ready?
Yep. And same with this. This is in North Kingston. These are lotus flowers. If you didn't know where they were, you'd drive right by them. It's in a little place, little nook off the side of the road that you wouldn't expect to see them. And this is the bud. The next flower, when it comes up, that's what this bud will turn into. They're beautiful flowers to photograph. I usually get down for around 7 in the morning before the sun comes up over the trees, because once the sun comes up, then you get harsh highlights sometimes on the flowers. So it's better to take flower photography on a cloudy day.
Link, you've already kind of alluded to that it's about paying attention and what you see. Are there other lessons that you've learned from photography?
To get in close, to be aware of your lighting. Lighting is very important, because sometimes if you were going to take a picture of somebody and the sun is behind them, all you're going to get is a silhouette. So you have to be very knowledgeable on your lighting, whether it's side lighting, front lighting, or back lighting.
All right, good. All right, let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite times of the year is to photograph, is in the fall. And this was at Hope Dam out in Hope, Rhode Island. And I love getting reflections in the water. And as you can see, there was clouds in the sky, and I backed up far enough so I could get not only the reflections of the colors of the trees, but also get the reflection of the clouds. I really believe that clouds really make a picture. And The other thing I do in the fall, I'll zoom in on the colors on the water and get water reflections, and they really become an impressionistic photograph. And I love doing that. And I sell note cards with those kind of pictures. This I believe this was at, it's either Oakland Beach or Connecticut Point. I'm not sure which. I didn't put that down. But it was just a nice moon. Sometimes I've been down to Connecticut Point where I've been taking the sunset on one side of the sandbar over there, and then you turn around and you're photographing the moon rising on the other side of the sandbar, which is very interesting. But in order to do something like this, you really need a tripod to put your camera on and a remote, so there's no shake to the camera when you snap the picture. This is an abstract. I like doing abstracts too. Came in a lot closer to this building. The way it's shaped on the front side of it, it looks like a roll of film rolled out, the way they built it. But I zoomed in closer. I put a polarizer on the camera so I would get the deep blue up in the top of it and the lines from the shadows. And it makes a nice abstract. I got honorable mention with this picture in one year in the photo journal, Providence Journal photo contest they had. This is another one, very cold out. As you can see, this is Warwick Lake. I call it Warwick Pond, but it really is a lake, so it's Warwick Lake. And you can see the reflection of the sunset across the whole lake because it was all frozen over. And when I go out like that, you just gotta dress warm and wear a hat that comes down over your ears and all of that. But there's so much beauty out there, even in the cold. And I really believe that the ice helped improve the quality of this image.
Link, how long would you be out to capture an image like this? I think we often think we want to go out, we just want to hurry and take a photo and go home. How long would you be out when you're doing this kind of photography?
I'd probably go out to try to get the sunset an hour before it sets and I go crazy, especially with digital today, because you can delete it afterwards and if you don't like what you take. But I just continue. So I'm out at least an hour before sunset, and then probably half hour to an hour after sunsets. There's so many people that I've seen, especially one year when we were in Maine. We were on top of Cadillac Mountain and the sun set, and after it set, probably 3/4 of the people left. And the longer you stayed afterwards, the colors got up into the clouds, and the picture gets even more beautiful after the sun actually sets itself. Yeah. So I would say an hour to 2 hours I'm out there.
Okay. Great.
And then the other thing is I like looking at scripture verses to sometimes go with the photos. And this one was, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands, Psalm 19:1. And when you see the next picture, you'll understand about the hands. If you look at this image close, it looks like coming down from the right side is the big hand of God reaching out to a small hand that might be a child. When I took this image, I never even realized that. I had somebody that commented on it and said to me, they said, it looks like the hand of God reaching down. And I was amazed when I looked at it. You don't realize sometimes what you catch in the clouds, which really make the picture. So I thought that scripture verse went along with this image very well.
Well, Link, you mentioned you like to read scripture as you think about your photography. What other connections do you find between your photography and your faith?
How awesome God is. When you're out here, or even when I go to Beavertail and I'll sit on the rocks and watch the waves crash into the rocks, and it just, God is an awesome God. There's no doubt about it. And the more I'm out there, you see his hand in so many things. Nature is so beautiful. And being out by yourself, walking through the woods or whatever, there's nothing else that gets in your way. You're all by yourself and there's no noise around you or anything. And it just gives you a lot of quiet time to be with God. A lot of times I'll pray as I'm walking a path, of course with my eyes open, but to me, my photography brings me a lot closer to God and increases my faith just due to the fact that I know that he's an awesome God and he created the heavens and the earth.
Great.
This was taken at Rocky Point. That's their new fishing pier that they put a lot of money and time in building that, but it's beautiful. In the summertime, there's a lot of people fishing out there. This was early in the morning, probably 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was a cloudy day. And I thought I wasn't going to get anything, but God opened up a window of color and sun for me for about a half hour. And after that, it was gone. So if you weren't there in that particular time, you wouldn't have got anything that morning. But once again, his beauty is everywhere you look. And I tried to get, when I took this picture, I wanted to have something in the foreground, and there was some red flowers in the foreground, which stand out too. So that helped the photo too. And this one that was a sunrise. The next picture you're going to see is a sunset. And this is a verse, and I've sold some frames with 3 pictures in it. It has the sunset above it, the scripture on the middle one, and then the sunset at night. So from the rising of the sun to the place where it sets, the name of the Lord is to be praised. And this was a sunset. So the first one above it was a sunrise. This was a sunset. This was taken at Oakland Beach. And so many people, there's a asphalt path, if you've never been to Oakland Beach, between Iggy's and a place they call Brushneck Cove. And along there's trees and everything along there. And I saw this tree and I wanted to do something a little different and have this tree as part of the image with the sunset behind it. And it worked. I've had a lot of people give me a lot of nice compliments about it. And the last competition in my camera club, I took 3rd place with this image, and the judge really liked it.
Well, Link, this series is about artists who have moved into or traveling through the third of life. So I wonder if your photography and or your practice of it has changed as you've gotten older, and if so, how has it changed?
The biggest change has been I'm not taking pictures hoping that the judge is going to like it in the camera club where I can, win an award or something. I did that for a long time. At one time, my best friend Doug and my brother-in-law Dale, they were in the club at the same time with me, and we were competing against each other, and we were very competitive. But I don't do that anymore. I take pictures that I like, and I don't worry about whether the judge likes it or not. If I like it, I'm going to take the picture. And that's one of the things that have changed. The other thing is I've learned to take pictures down low. I'll get down on my knees sometimes to take a picture. It gives you a whole different view of it. If you're going to take a picture of a young child or something, get down to their level instead of shooting down at them. Kneel down or whatever and shoot at their level. I'm trying to just think of some of the other things that, of course, a lot of these changes to me have been because I've been a member of a camera club and I've learned a lot from the other photographers that belong and from the guest speakers we have and the comments on it, the pictures we take. So I've learned a lot from that. But I've slowed down. I look for a different type of picture. I try to look around, move around from one side to another side to another side to see what might be a better angle of it. So I'm much more thinking about how I want to take a picture than I used to be. I just don't go and snap any old picture anymore. Sometimes I do, but I try, like this one, I try to do something different, do something that somebody else might not have. So, and I've noticed a lot more beauty around me because that I've slowed down and I take the time to walk by something slower than to be walking by it real fast and to be thinking about other things. This was Rocky Point sunset. I love reflections in the water. I love the clouds in the sky. And the water was fairly calm. Of course, when it's really windy and the water's blowing, you don't get the reflections. But a lot of times the water's calm enough so you can get reflections. And I just thought this was beautiful because it captured some rocks in the foreground, the reflections on the water, and then the clouds in the sky, which to me really make a picture. Just having a blank sky, nobody really wants to go look into that. Most people will go into a picture and they'll look from left to right. So the rocks take you in the picture, then you go into the reflections and then into the clouds, and it keeps you in the picture. There's nowhere really for you to go out of this picture. And that's what you want. If you're sharing your work, you want people to be able to see what you've done and stay into the picture and enjoy it and absorb it. This was another one at Oakland Beach, and it wasn't that great a sunset. So I walked around to try to find something to put in the foreground to make a difference. And I came across this rocks that was stacked up and this grass that's here. And I took that picture. I also, in this image, I have cropped some of the blank sky out of the picture. So this is really another one where you can start, something draws you into the picture with the rocks and the grass, and you move right through into the sunset. And I've had a lot of people say what a nice picture this was. And it's just, I walked around and tried to find something, make a picture out of it when there wasn't that much of a sunset that night. This is one of my favorite. I was taking pictures at Rocky Point sunrise. This was Friday the 13th, September Friday the 13th in 2019. And I was at Rocky Point, and it was a beautiful sunrise, and I was heading home down West Shore Road. And I said, you know, let me stop at Connecticut Point and see what there is. And God must have been telling me something to go there, because when I got there, this was the sea smoke coming up, and that's the sun rising. But some people said it was at the moon going down, and it wasn't. It was a sunset, and it just had a lot of. I just loved the way it was with the lighthouse, Connecticut Light, with the sea smoke coming up and the sun behind the clouds. It just made a very, very nice image. This was on the front page of the Warwick Beacon, and I probably sold 4 or 5 8x10 prints matted of this. So this was one of my favorites, and it was just, I just all of a sudden, on the spur of the moment, I said, I'm going to go in there and see what there is. And there it was. So you never know what you're going to come across. And sometimes it's just being at the right place at the right time to capture the image. This one is Patuxent Cove, and I had over 1,000 people like this image, and I had so many people comment on it, from having a jigsaw puzzle made of it. It makes a nice postcard. Korea and eyes image. And again, it just happened to be there at the right time and catch the reflections in the water. You can still see snow on the ground. You see all the different types of houses, and it's the whole cove. This happens to be, and where I was taking the picture from is in Warwick, but the if you farther down you go, it's in Cranston. So it's on the Warwick Cranston line in Patuxent Village. Very nice spot.
Well, I asked Link if he would put together a list of tips. If you're thinking about starting to do photography, if you're new to it, or if you've had some experience. So I'm just going to let Link talk a little bit about the tips he recommends.
Yeah, there's so many tips. When Catherine asked me to do this, she said 8 to 10. And when I started writing things down, I had 18 and there could have been more. So I tried to bring it down to 10. And for some people, this might be not their top 10. I tried to think about this as much as I could if somebody was just starting out in photography, what they'd want to do when they start out. And the first thing is don't go crazy buying the most expensive equipment right away. Because if for some reason you decide you really don't want to do this or whatever, you don't want to have a lot of money tied up in it. And you don't need the most expensive equipment to do it, because the camera doesn't create the photograph. You create the photograph and what you see and what you take. The camera helps you do that, but you actually create the photograph. The other thing is consider a tripod. Even an inexpensive tripod is worth getting, because there are a lot of times where you don't want any camera movement at all, because if you do, your image is going to come out blurred. And you don't want that to happen, especially when you're first starting out too. And like I was saying, when I took the picture of the moon, I had that on a tripod, and I have a remote button that I press, and then it takes the picture for you. If you don't have a remote, you can do it right on they have timers, and you can set it for whatever amount of time you want and press the button, and in 2 to 5 seconds, it will take the picture. So it makes the camera a lot more steady, especially if you're shooting wildlife or shooting the moon or shooting something that you're going to need a longer exposure. You don't want to have that camera movement, because if you do, your image won't come out sharp. The other thing, and I'm preaching to the choir because I don't always read the manual, but you should read the manual of whatever camera you have and get a feel and know about your camera. Because some cameras do so many different things. And if you're out taking a picture and you don't know what it can do, then you might not get as nice a picture as you would have. So very important to read the manual. And then another one is, it's all about what you see through the viewfinder, not what or how much gear you have. So again, you're the one creating the picture. The camera's just doing what it needs to do when you press that button. But so again, it's all about what you see through the viewfinder, not what the gear that you have. Experiment with your camera settings. There's so many settings. There's manual, there's auto, where it automatically does all the work for you and takes the picture. Manual, where you can change the ISO and the aperture and the speed that you take the picture at. Then there's different ones that you can have. Aperture priority, shutter priority, where you can actually change that yourself. So you need to experiment with your camera settings and see what they can do. You can take pictures of waterfalls and you can have it where it looks really silky, but you have to experiment with that. And sometimes those are going to require longer exposures. And again, that's why you really need to have a tripod. Let's see. Oh, this number 6, very important. Composition, rule of thirds. Most cameras today have a grid inside them, and they're divided up in thirds. And when you're taking a picture and you want to have your main subject, what they tell you is your main subject should be in one of the thirds, either in the top third or the bottom third, either on the right side or the left side. And having that grid in the camera, you can move your camera around so the main subject will be in one of those thirds and you can actually see that. So that's very important to look at, work with a rule of thirds. Another one that I like that I heard quite a few years ago was KISS, keep it simple, stupid. You don't want to have a picture that's really crowded with a lot of different things. Sometimes people will take pictures and you could really take that picture apart and have like 3 different pictures you could have taken because you have so much in it. And people don't know what you're really trying to express in the picture. So if you keep it simple, they can look at that picture and know what you're trying to share with them. The other thing is ask questions. If you're not sure about doing something, find a friend that does photography, join a camera club. There's so many, you can go online, you can go to YouTube, you can put a question in Google and it'll come up and give you some answers. So if you're not sure of something, definitely ask questions. Explore, have fun, and study the light. Just explore all different things. And you don't have to be serious about the photography all the time. Have some fun and study the light. Like I said before, light's very, very important. I belong to a group that I've only met one of the people and we have a photo challenge every week. And that's been a lot of fun. And I've been down in Providence shooting graffiti. Then I'll go through another part of Providence and shoot the architects, looking up at all the buildings and seeing reflections of windows from other buildings in other buildings, which make for nice pictures. So just explore. The sky's the limit as far as photography goes. And everybody has a certain kind of photography that's their favorite to do. So just do that. And again, lighting is very important. And then the last thing that I had for at least to have 10, know your gear like the back of your hand. Because if you go out to take a picture and you're not sure what you're doing with your camera and you're trying to do it, you're liable to miss the shot that you wanted to get. So it's very important to know your camera so that when you get out there, you can set up right away and be there for the photograph that you want to capture.
Link, do you want to look at your gear?
Sure. And I just wanted to show you, this is the gear that I use. And believe it or not, I take a lot more pictures with my phone right now because at 75, I don't want to be lugging all this heavy equipment around anymore. So the phone is very, very good at taking pictures, depending on what type of phone you have. And so even if you don't have a camera and you want to start out and get a feel of what you would like to do, start with your camera before you buy, with your phone before you buy any camera. The camera on the right is a point and shoot camera by Nikon. It's got one built-in lens in it. It goes out all the way out to 1,000 millimeters, so you don't have to change lenses. And the one on the left, I've had for about 11 years. That's a Nikon too, and that's digital. All these are, they're both digital. And on the one on the left, I have 3 different lenses. I got a zoom lens that goes out to 300 millimeter. I got a macro lens, which is really nice. You can get in really close. That's what I used in a couple of those flower pictures. And then I have the regular lens that came with it. But that's basically what I have. I have a camera bag that I take it with, and I have a tripod. Tripods are a lot lighter now. That they have aluminum ones and the carbon fiber ones. The one I have right now is quite heavy, so I don't take it very much. So one of these days, I'd like to get a lighter one so that I can take the tripod out with me more.
Link, can you mention the app that you have on your phone?
Oh yes, Snapseed. SNAPE seed, SEED. And that's a free app. And I have a tablet too, so I put it on my tablet. It's for Android. and my tablet, my phone are both Android. And you can do post-processing. And what I mean by that is after you take the picture and you put the card into your laptop, or well, if you take a picture with your phone, the pictures automatically go into my laptop. They automatically go into my tablet. So I have Snapseed on my phone and I have it on my tablet. And post-processing is where after you bring your picture up and look at it, if you're not as happy with it as you thought you would be, there's things that you can do to change it and make it even better. And you can do that with Snapseed. And that's a free app. There's no cost to that. Once you start doing that, you'll be spending a lot of time on whatever device you're on, because you'll get, you really get into it and you just try different things and see how it changes your picture and everything. And these were just a couple of quotes that a friend of mine, a photographer, he sent them to me. He said, you might be able to use them. And I tried to pick out a couple that people would know. Henry David Thoreau, it's not what you look at that matters, it's what you see. And then of course, Ansel Adams, who was a great, great photographer. I can't imagine climbing the hills and the mountains he did out west in the Midwest with a big heavy camera and a tripod. But he has some beautiful, beautiful black and white pictures. If you've never seen them, try to find a place where you can see some of his pictures. And he said, you don't take a photograph, you make a photograph.
Well, I am going to unshare my screen, and that way we will, if you've got questions for Link, what I just invite you to do is unmute yourself. And we've got probably 5 or 10 minutes that we can take some questions if you've got them. So anyone's got a question, just unmute and you can just ask away.
Hi, Link. It's Karen. Your work is beautiful, beautiful. I've seen that lotus flower, and if I remember correctly, it's like a giant flower that's almost like a foot long, a foot across. Is that true? When they're in full bloom?
Yeah, when they're in full bloom, the one you saw there, they even open up even more than that. And you get a big round thing in the center of the flower. And I don't know if they're a foot long, but they're quite large. They're beautiful flowers. And like I said, if you didn't know they were there, you'd drive right by them. It's just outside the center of Whitford Center.
Now that lotus, isn't that, has it originated in Asia?
I believe so. It's an endangered species. They tell people not to cut them or anything down at where they are.
Thank you.
Other folks have questions.
Lincoln, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you use to print your photos out? You may have said it, but
print them out. The ones
digital
that,
printer or
no, I don't do them on my printer anymore. You use a lot of ink, and this place it's not that expensive to have prints done. All the prints that I have for all the note cards I make, I have Snapfish do those. And then there's another one called, I can't think, Shutterfly would be another place. I mean, you can get them done at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, any of those places. But I like Snapfish. I'm very pleased with the quality of the print. It pretty much matches the colors that the picture was that I sent.
yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Good
Awesome.
question. Other questions? Kathy?
Link, thank you so much. Just love looking at those photos. Thanks for sharing them. Can only imagine you being out by the water so much and how much fun that is too. So you said something about the lighting. And so how do you learn to do the lighting? How do you learn? Or do you have books that you read, or is it all things that you just picked up on the fly or from friends? If somebody wants to, it seems like an important aspect, but I'm trying to figure out how I can learn more about lighting.
I think I'm not I still don't know all the ins and outs of lighting myself, even after all these years. But I do know one thing, you really don't, if you're taking pictures of family or friends and the sun is behind them, you don't want to take that picture. because unless you want a silhouette, because all you're gonna get is a silhouette, because the camera is gonna read off the lighting, which it's gonna make, it makes that image a silhouette. There's sometimes when you want a silhouette, but side lighting is very nice. Backlighting is nice at sometimes. You know, if you have a picture of a leaf and it's I forget how I want to say it, but you can ask people, you can go online. I know I Google a lot of things and I'll just ask about it and you get all kinds of things. When I started doing for the tips for a new photographer, I just put in tips for a new photographer and I had all kinds of stuff come up
Okay.
to help me do that. So there's plenty of things you can do. If you have a specific question and I don't know the answer, I can get the answer for you even.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, Leanne? You gotta turn your,
You just have to unmute yourself.
I'm not sure who you were talking to.
No, it
with the-
wasn't me. It must have been you.
oh, you were waving. I thought you had a question.
Yes, I do. Joanne, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. There is a Leanne, so that's why I was like, oh no, which one? I'm not questioning, just wondering what you use mostly when you're bumping up your colors, if you are bumping up your colors, like in Lightroom or Photoshop or.
I just don't have the extra money to do Lightroom. I do with what I have. I have Photoshop. I don't use that much. I'm taking most of my pitch, and there's nothing against those. You can do wonderful work in them in Lightroom, but I'm taking probably 75% of my pitches on my phone now. And I'm
Right, but I
using,
didn't know if you're bumping up any of your colors, and if so, what do you do with them?
in that Snapseed, there's a one place that says pop. There's another one that says accentuate. There's another one that's HDR, and you just hit that button and it changes the color.
Okay,
Then saturation, if you want to saturate the colors more, you can go in and hit saturation. You can play, there's a thing on that Snapseed. But you can do all of that in Photoshop. You can do all that in Lightroom too. I know some of my friends will spend hours on hours post-processing. I just don't have the time to do that. I'm involved in other things, volunteering and things at my church and stuff. So, but that Snapseed, if you don't have the time to spend a lot of time, you can make a lot of changes with that. And today it's high. I would say most of the pictures you see today probably aren't the original picture that was taken. That's the way it is today, because people have the ability to enhance and make the picture even better. You have to have what you want to take, but you also have to if you want to make it some changes to it, change the contrast, change the white balance, all kinds of things you can change. But for me, most of the time I'll hit one button and that's where I leave it.
I
Thanks.
think I have a question about that Snapseed.
Yep.
You said it's an app. Can you use it on your PC?
It's only for Android, I believe.
Oh, it is? Okay. Because I've moved most of my photos off my phone onto my PC to have room on my phone.
Tell me about it. I probably have 8,000 pictures on my
I'm
phone.
sure you have way more than I do.
And I got over 10,000 pictures on my tablet.
Wow.
Well, I need to go in, and that's another thing for beginners. After you take pictures, go through them and delete the ones you really don't want,
Yeah.
because if you don't, it gets away from you. When I have cards, SD cards and stuff, instead of taking pictures off, I just buy another card.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. I got a lot of stuff to go through. During the pandemic, years ago, I took a lot of slides. And when I went cross country in 1988, I shot 50 rolls of slide film. And so I had time in that church, I set up a projector and everything because nobody was there and I could go through it. I probably threw away 6,000 slides because I saved every slide I ever took. So it can get away from you. It can really get away from you. So, but Nancy, you can check on YouTube, no, Google, and say email about me, and I'll tell you, there's got to be other apps that are free that you can use on your PC.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your photos. They were absolutely gorgeous.
Thanks, Nance.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Yes, Meredith.
I just downloaded Snapseed onto my iPhone,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be an Android.
Oh, okay.
Good.
You'll enjoy that.
Other questions?
Link, that Patuxent Cove picture, the detail in it was awesome. It almost looked like a Maxwell maze. It was great.
Thank you very much. I've had a lot. In fact, I've had people that I got to get a print made myself, so I know that it'll look right. But I've got some people that want to buy that picture already.
I believe it.
Well, a lot of people know Patuxent Village because there's so much going on down in that village. So a lot of people visit there.
Have you shown in the calendar from the city of Warwick? Have you been on in that
Yeah.
calendar?
Yeah, 2000 last year's.
Oh,
It was in September of last year because that photograph of Nimick at White that I took on Friday the 13th, that's the one that was in the calendar.
oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. This is great.
The other thing that if people want to experiment in the fall, when I take reflections in the water of the colors and stuff, the picture comes out like an impressionistic picture, like a Van Gogh or whatever. And I really like doing that.
One of the things that Link and I talked about, once we're kind of past COVID, where it's a little safe, maybe in the fall, we'll publicize and do a walking trip where we can take photographs. Link and I got to walk around Canonicus one day, and we plan to do it again and just haven't had time. So keep an eye out. We'll put out word, but that would be a great time, and he can coach you some. And it's just a great time to be together. So
And maybe sometime, Catherine, we can do something, a photo challenge type thing.
right.
You
We
know,
talked about that too, doing a photo challenge. Link is part of a weekly photo challenge, and I'm always amazed at what the challenge is and then how innovative he is in responding to that challenge. Joanne just posted that, is it Pixlr? Pixlr is a free program, but it works as web-based editing program. So that's helpful. So Pixlr. Thanks, Joanne. All right, one more question, and then we're gonna wrap up today. Any more?
But on the photo challenge, I'm in week 38 out of 52 weeks. So, and one of the challenges was we went through the whole alphabet for 26 weeks and took a picture showing each one of those letters. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's been amazing. What your most recent one was, what was for the doorknob?
Doorknob in the bottom, in the closet, storage closet under the stairs of the old building of our church. So the doorknob was like 126 years old. And that was my picture for that challenge. So.
Yeah, great. Well, Link, I cannot thank you enough. You were the perfect person to inaugurate our new program, and thank you for sharing not only your photographs, but your time, your spirit, your wisdom, and your faith. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. I really appreciate you asking me, and I guess I was the guinea pig.
Well, I couldn't think of a better person to begin. And thank you all for joining us. Keep an eye out. We're going to be doing a program every month that will feature a different artist. And if you've got any ideas, we're looking for folks from within our American Baptist churches here in Rhode Island. But if you're an artist or know someone in all kinds of art, we're including, so let me know. But again, thank you for coming, and Link, thanks so much.
Thank you, and I want to thank everybody that came to this, and share it with your friends that they will be able to see it.
Oh, one more thing, we will have a recording, and there'll be a link on our website, but Link will also have know how to do it, and probably